So joining us now are some of the people that are concerned about what's going to happen with education funding. Of course, that's always one of the biggest issues we hear about. These two people are members of What Will Our Children Lose Coalition. And Joe Cirisillo, thanks for joining us, from the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, and Patrice McCarthy, the Deputy Director and General Counsel of the Connecticut Association of Boards of Ed. The first question I suppose I must ask is the governor's proposal to have towns and cities pick up a third of teacher pensions. I'll let you start.
That's a huge concern. The impact will be felt in every community, and it will definitely, if that proposal were enacted, curtail the services that we're able to provide for our public school students.
How so?
There's simply a huge cost tag. It's over $400 million that he's proposing, shifting from a state responsibility to local communities. And local communities have no opportunity to negotiate over those costs. Those are state obligations.
So then I guess what she's saying is there are some unintended consequences. If you have to give back $400 million, that's less than you can spend on your students.
Absolutely. I'll give you some examples. In Waterbury, it's $10 million. In West Hartford, it's $13 million. What those communities are going to do, as much as possible, reduce the education budget to pay the state for the teachers' pensions. That means less programs for kids. That means teachers being laid off. It's going to be horrible, actually, if it goes through, because that's a huge amount of money for the aggregate of the local communities to make up and not hurt education.
What do you think about the governor's proposal that he will change the ECS formula, education cost sharing formula, somewhat? Is that advantageous or only to certain communities?
We have a problem with that because it means some communities are going to get less and some communities are going to get more. Every child in this state has a right to some support from the state, and we shouldn't be doing a Robin Hood kind of approach with this.
You mean take from the rich and give to the poor?
And to a certain extent, that's really what it is, and that's a problem for us. We understand that the less wealthy communities need a lot of help. Those kids are needy, and we're not disputing that at all. But it shouldn't be at the expense of the other kids in the state, especially because there are needy kids in every community.
Patrice, we have a court decision now that is going to the Supreme Court, but still, where the judge basically said, and the governor the other day said he agreed with a lot of what the judge said, that the poor children in this state are being unfairly, that their education is not being fairly paid for, that they're getting unconstitutional grounds for their education because we're just simply not putting enough money in. What do we do about that?
Well, clearly with the fiscal constraints the state is facing, as well as the very communities that our neediest children live in, that's a real challenge. We have to look at how we can best use the resources that are available. We were heartened by the governor's comments with respect to addressing some of the mandates that school districts face. Professional development requirements are tremendously burdensome and don't allow districts to have the time to really provide the support for their teachers to help them be more effective in meeting student needs.
It seems as though one of the mandates that the governor is willing to give some relief on would have to do with how you handle collective bargaining, arbitration. That's probably more on the municipal employee side than teachers. But also he's talking about some flexibility in curriculum, some flexibility in terms of whether you have a superintendent in every district. What does that provide?
Well, the flexibility on curriculum is welcome, and any mandate relief is. This notion that you don't have to have a superintendent in every district is a little bit based, I think, on some misunderstandings. Right now, districts can hire the same person to be the superintendent in 2 districts, 3 districts. In fact, that goes on in some parts of the state. In some places, they can have part-time superintendents. You can also have the same person be the high school principal or a school principal and the superintendent. So I'm not quite sure why that proposal is even being made. That's not going to save any money. I wish superintendents made that amount of money that we could say that's a lot of money. But the other mandate relief that he's talking about, we're quite pleased about that.
Well, thank you both for being with us. We'll, of course, look for you at hearings as the budget is worked out. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.